My name is Gary Schwartz. I donated my kidney to my wife just about 8 months ago.
My name is Carney Steffen, and I actually donated a kidney to someone who at the time I did not know. I actually know him now. His name is Jeff Wilson.
My name is Michelle, and I donated indirectly to my husband.
So the decision for me, I have to be honest, I never really thought about doing something like a kidney donation until the opportunity presented itself. My wife was suffering from an inherited kidney disorder, and she moved here, and shortly after moving here to Arizona, she experienced a decline in health related to her kidney disease. So we were presented with a series of possible or alternatives to dealing with that. One of them was to put her on the National Kidney Registry in search of a donor. The other option was to see if there was anyone who was related or who was willing to look into a donation. And so I decided that we have a problem presented to us. There are a couple of options for answers. I have the possibility of providing a quick and relatively straightforward solution, and so we then set about going through the testing procedure, and it turned out, amazingly, I was a match, and we went forward from there.
It was a Saturday night. I was watching a movie, and my BlackBerry went off, and it was an email from a woman who I knew who she was in the community, but she wasn't a friend of mine. And I thought, why is Christy Wilson emailing me on a Saturday night? I opened the email, and she's obviously sent it to a gazillion people. And it was all about how her husband needed a kidney, and if they could find 15 people who are blood type O positive to volunteer, statistically one of them would match. And I thought, well, I'm blood type O positive. And out loud I said, who on earth would donate a body part? And I look up, and the next line in the movie I'm watching was, well, I was pretty close to your grandfather. I do have one of his kidneys. And I went, you have got to be kidding me, God. You did not just tell me to do that. And I thought about it and went through a little internal struggle for about 3 minutes and sent her text back and said, let me know what's involved.
So in my case, I wanted to provide my kidney to my husband as the intended donor recipient. But after going through some of the tests, they determined our blood type was a deterrent to that ultimate goal. But that was okay. We were told that there's this pair donation program, which meant that I, as a donor, would give to this pool of others hoping for a kidney, my husband being one of them. But again, because we weren't a compatible match, they were able to provide my kidney to another recipient with whom I was a match. My husband, in turn, needing a kidney in the same pool, also found a kidney. It's as though you're paying it forward. I brought forth a kidney to give to somebody who needed it. My husband, by virtue of my participation, was in the pool expecting a kidney. And it's basically just aligning again kidney donors with kidney recipients.
The screening process for donation was pretty intense in terms of the kind of information they wanted, which makes a lot of sense. They want to know that you are a good match from a physiological point of view and that you're actually a healthy enough person to go through the procedure.
So the interesting thing about testing is that they first do the tests that are less expensive, you know, the blood test, the EEG, all that. After you've passed all of those early tests, after that they do a CT scan to see that you actually have 2 kidneys, because not everybody's born with 2. Or some people are born with something called a horseshoe kidney, where the kidneys actually are attached, which means you can't take one out.
So in all, I understand the whole range of tests could be done in a day or 2 days. For us, it played out over the course of several weeks because we lived very nearby a center that is one of the nation's leading centers for kidney transplants. So we were able to space out the test as it fit our schedule.
So as a donor, you have a surgeon, the recipient has a surgeon, but then you also have an advocate doctor, and the advocate doctor meets with you separately so that if you ever decide you don't want to go through with this, he can say she doesn't qualify for a reason, and he gives a reason, and so you've never had to disclose, I changed my mind. So the advocate doc gave me sort of all the extra information that I felt like I just wanted to ask odd questions, and so I could ask him at any time anything extra. I also could call him and get additional information. But, you know, he was so thorough, I was very comfortable.
I love the research process personally, so I sought above and beyond the information I was given.
I was anxious mostly because I was worried about the outcome for my wife. I know that it's very easy for me to sit here and say I wasn't worried about myself, I was worried about my loved one who was receiving the kidney, but I was fairly confident that the entire team of surgeons, of coordinators, of nurse practitioners, I had gotten all the information that I needed, and I would encourage everyone who's thinking about this to seek out all the information you can, ask all the questions.
Don't feel pressured to donate a kidney. It has to be something that you want to do. And it has to be something that you're most comfortable with doing. And so seek the answers. Don't ever discount your feelings of doubt, of angst, of any kind of anxiety. Definitely seek the answers. Talk to people. There's no shame in asking questions.
There's no such thing as a silly question. And I asked hundreds of questions. So I felt pretty confident about what I would be going through.
Preceding this decision, it never occurred to me that I wasn't going to do it. I was completely committed from the moment I made the decision. Day before surgery, it's a little nerve-wracking. I mean, who does elective voluntary surgery? You know, you're sort of questioning. I was careful not to tell a lot of people I was doing it because I didn't want them to think I was either crazy or holy, and I'm neither. So it was a little nerve-wracking. But you know, you get there in the morning and it was very smooth. They get you right in. You're in pre-op and these nurses keep coming up going, oh, it's so wonderful what you're doing. And you just get so overwhelmed with everybody's excitement around it. And then my doctor came in and I just lit up like a Christmas tree. I was just so happy to see him and just happy it was finally going to happen.
I was taken back right away. I believe I was the first patient of the day in the surgical ward. Had the whole place to myself. I met with the surgeon again, with whom I had met prior to surgery, to explain the procedure and talk more about post-donation.
After they put your little IV in, you end up going into pre-op. You're sitting there, the doctor comes in. They actually initial right on your skin this. You know, they were taking my right kidney, so he actually initials on the right with like a Sharpie or I don't know what kind of pen it was. They take you into surgery. You know, you're wheeled in. You look up at your anesthesiologist, and he says, "How are you feeling?" "Oh, good," and you are out like that.
These days, it's really amazing how it's done. The surgery for the donor, there are 3 small little holes in your upper abdomen, and then an incision below your belly button, where they actually retrieve the organ before they bring it to the recipient.
Next thing I remember, I woke up, my family was in the room. I was checked as anyone would be in the hospital after surgery for vitals and fluids and dietary, and it was fine. It felt like nothing had happened.
The actual day of the procedure went, I think, as smoothly as it can go. We were kept informed of everything that was going on, of what would happen at particular times, how the procedures would be coordinated, how everything would work.
So the worst part of surgery is that the incision is itchy. I mean to tell you, it's itchy. And you don't want to itch because it's an abdominal incision. So they call it a bikini incision if you're a woman. If you're a man, it's an abdominal incision. But I mean, you could never see this, but that also means that it's so low that you cannot scratch anywhere in public because it would be so inappropriate.
There wasn't the pain that I thought there might be. To a woman, it was similar to menstrual cramping. A lot of us go through that as women. I'm not sure the equivalent on the male side of the equation, but I had somewhat menstrual feeling types of cramps, so I dismissed it as such and thought, oh, this is just like any other month potentially.
So there is pain that comes from being cut open or punctured, but it was nothing near what I expected it to be. I will admit that I experienced some pain a couple of days after. You're given all the right kinds of pain meds if you need.
Other than the incision itching, it really wasn't huge. At least my experience wasn't a big deal. I don't have a high pain threshold, so it wasn't that, you know, I could tolerate more because I don't tolerate pain well. But it just wasn't hard. I mean, I kept waiting for oh, now I'm going to feel bad, and it just never came.
After the surgery, I was in the hospital for 2 days. I was not forced to, given any schedule. It was made very clear to me that however long I felt I needed to stay there, I could.
I was only in the hospital a total of 3 days. And then when I got home, I had resumed somewhat normal activity within the first day. I was released, I came home, I got into my comfy pajamas, checked a few emails, just rested.
You're tired, you sleep a little more. I mean, your body's healing from something. But it's laparoscopic, which is just amazingly mild surgery.
It is always difficult to make a decision that you know will bring you some short amount of discomfort of a few weeks of really having to recover from a fairly major surgery. But everybody I spoke to who is a donor has experienced no setbacks in their life, in their energy levels, in their ability to engage in their work life, their recreational activities, etc.
So the one thing the doctors told me post-surgery was they did not want me riding motorcycles or doing contact sports. And I said, do you want people doing that who have 2 kidneys? He said, no, we don't want them doing it either. But we always tell people with 1, you shouldn't do that. So
As a donor, my lifestyle has not changed at all. There's nothing that I think about more so than I did before. Nothing I can't do now after the surgery that I couldn't do before. There are no limitations. The only limitation I did have was right after surgery, just like the recipient. There's a certain timeline outlined by your medical professional that deems a certain weight appropriate given your post-recovery. So in my case, it was, say, lift no more than 10 pounds following surgery for the next 2 to 6 weeks or what have you. And everybody has a different body and different reaction to the recovery period. But aside from being immediately after the surgery and watching what I lifted, no lifestyle or activity changes at all as a donor.
I would say the biggest change that I've had to make for my lifestyle is to have it now in the forefront of my brain that I really need to be conscious of living a very having a very heart-healthy diet, eating well, exercising well. All the things that somebody in their 40s and beyond should be doing anyway. So if nothing else, this whole experience has just made me realize that now I have to really look after myself.
I will tell you, the one big change post-surgery was that now that I knew that I had 1 kidney, I had this mental shift, and I have eaten healthier, I exercise more, I drink more water, I have just become a more consciously healthy person. And it just happened sort of automatically, just an awareness thing.
Thankfully, my wife is doing really well. Apparently, my kidney took to her as if it was her own kidney. She's back to work, she's back to traveling around the country and internationally, she's back to teaching, she's more energetic than I've seen her in many, many years, which puts me to shame.
Since I didn't know these people prior to agreeing to donate a kidney, I didn't know a lot about Jeff. I actually met him before the surgery, but a few months after I agreed to start testing. And when I met him, the next day my friends were like, so what's he like? And I said, oh, he's chalky and he doesn't feel good, he has no energy, and he was really polite to this person he doesn't know who's going to give him a kidney. I don't know who he is. The day after my surgery, I had a friend of mine take me down to the emergency, or to the ICU where he was. And I came around the corner with my little IV pole, and I see Jeff, and Jeff sees me, and it was that first moment, and I mean, we both lost it. And he was a completely different looking man. I mean, here was this man with all this color in his face. He had life. I mean, it was night and day. And we were both bawling, and his wife looks at me and she says, I have my husband back. I mean, the whole thing was worth it. It was worth it right there.
I spend more time looking at my wife just being amazed at how well she's doing than missing any part of me. Because really, on a day-to-day basis, after your recovery period of the first few months, you don't feel at all like you're missing any critical component.
When I came out of surgery, I was just elated. I had a smile on my face that was so big. They tell me. I was somewhat groggy, but that's what I've been told. And for anyone wanting to experience the same type of joy, I would say just make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. And be sure that you're getting all the information that you want to feel comfortable in doing so. And if you change your mind or you're not eligible to be a donor, there's other ways you can help the process. You can still be a conduit to getting someone more information. You know, you can speak to the process because you will have gone through it at that point potentially, and you can still be an advocate for kidney donation because you had traveled down that path to some extent, and sharing your story is never a bad thing to do.
For me, the original thinking was I want to do this for my wife and for our future. It didn't occur to me until I really started looking into it that, well, if you're not a match for her, there's still an opportunity to kickstart a process that could yield a match for her. It didn't really sink in immediately that in doing, if the latter was actually the route we would go, that it would affect a great number of people, not just my wife. And so, whereas I originally looked on that as not a failure, but an inability to directly help my wife, I quickly realized actually it could be an opportunity to help a lot of people, including my wife.
You know, with parent donation, I wasn't disappointed that I couldn't give to my husband. I mean, in a perfect world that would be nice, but in the end, he's still going to get a kidney because of my volunteering to provide one to himself or anybody else. So there wasn't a feeling of regret or remorse or sadness or disappointment. I was actually excited because whether you're a direct match or not, your intended recipient will still receive a kidney that's more appropriate.
What I would say to somebody who's thinking about it is to weigh the outcomes. If it's somebody that you know, that you are familiar with, I think it's pretty clear and right in front of you what the outcome will be. That person will experience a 180-degree turnaround in everything about their life. But if it's somebody you don't know, I think you may not realize the opportunity that you have to make a phenomenal contribution to one or perhaps many, given that one gift can actually initiate a chain of linkages where multiple people then receive the gift that they need to live a normal life.
Yes, as a donor, you do impact more than just your own life and that of the intended recipient. But to come to this party, if you will, of parent donation in my instance, and be able to walk away with 2 healthy people and 2 donors who feel amazing about the process and the opportunity, it's true blessings.
You know, I've never had to stare in the face of death before. And to know that I'm actually averting that for somebody else, it's really worth it.
I think make a decision with your eyes open and as informed as you can be. And I think if you do make the decision, you will be on the other side of it. You will realize what a tremendous contribution you've made.
When I think about how my decision has changed my life, I get chills literally to this day, and it's been a few years since I've donated. But my life has changed as a result of my saying yes to kidney donation. I know that's one of the most important things I've done as an individual, to help somebody I don't necessarily know or will ever meet, but to know I've helped a loved one, someone I care about, is an amazing honor. I'm not a medical professional. This is the closest I'll ever come to saving a life. And to be able to save my husband's and a stranger I don't even know is an amazing, amazing feeling.
I think the biggest thing post donating a kidney is that I've become a kidney advocate. I've been able to witness how extraordinary this was for the Wilson family to get my kidney. And it was such a minor thing for me to do that had such a profound impact someplace else. And I really think my part, by comparison to the life they have, is minor. And so now I'm an advocate telling people they ought to do this.
I was talking to my family, and my parents were telling me, you know, they feel very fortunate to have sons who are doing very well. So yeah, we all have titles that we accumulate, sons and brothers and husbands, but actually the one that I'm really most proud of is a living donor. It makes me feel really good that you could have helped somebody who was facing a really, really tough and prolonged and ultimately not a very good outcome, and turn their life around.